Welcome to Main Street Minds with your host, Amish Munshi. This is where industry leaders and seasoned pros share their secrets to success beyond limits. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to Main Street Minds. Today we have a very special guest, Tom Huguenard, with us. He is all the way from Oklahoma City, fresh in Oklahoma City, been in Oklahoma for a long time, but just recently relocated to Oklahoma City. I remember that place because when my brother moved in, he used to be in Tulsa and Oklahoma City, so I have like pretty strong ties with that place. When I hear about USA, when I was all the way like going 30, 40 years ago, when I would hear about USA, Oklahoma City and Tulsa were the first names I would hear. So I have like good old memories about that place. So without any further delay, I want to welcome Tom and let him explain the amazing journey he's had when some very important secrets that you're going to be learning about how to approach your career, your job options, and what you should and should not be doing at it. So without any further delay, opening up the floor, Tom, it's yours. Introduce yourself.
Thanks, Amish. I am Tom Huguenard. I have been in software development for 4 decades. I am very experienced. Am I great? Am I good? That's for others to guess. But I've learned a lot. And so, yeah, I'd like to share a few things that I've learned along the way that probably can help you. So, Amish, you had mentioned Sentinel Offender Services.
Yeah, I saw that. It's a very interesting name. What does it mean?
So Sentinel Offender Services is a provider of ankle bracelets.
Okay.
So you think of them as just being ankle bracelets, but there's so much more because there's a lot of back-end technology. There's a lot of radio communication, telephone communication. Okay. All of these aspects to what it means to monitor an offender. So Sentinel has a massive call center where they are monitoring the offenders, and the software is giving alerts to internal representatives as well as to potentially the people who the offender has offended. So if your ex is under a restraining order and Sentinel is watching your ex, if your ex gets close to where you are, you get alerted. You get a phone call or a text. And there have been some hair-raising stories that I've heard from 911 calls and so on, because people get on the phone with, the call center of Sentinel, and they walk them through very difficult situations.
Yeah.
And so it's a very successful part of that whole ankle monitoring stratum.
Interesting. So is the customer individuals or is the customer more of the public sector?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the customers are courts and police departments and sheriff's departments and so on.
Makes sense.
And it's a pretty good industry in a lot of ways because the number of people who are needing offender-oriented electronics like that is fairly constant, and so it's a good business to be in. And Sentinel is, I think, one of the best. They're not the most highly rated in terms of their population, but they do a great job, and it was good to work with them.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about how you got interested in tech and what got you all the way till working with Sentinel Offender Services, and what are you doing right now?
So thank you. So I always liked mathematics, and for me, programming is a form of applied mathematics. It's all logic. It's all propositional logic expressed in words. So that was fascinating to me. And my dad was involved in data processing in the 60s. And I've got 7 siblings, and nearly all of us have been involved in programming one way or another.
Nice. Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
something to be able to like meet up family and talk something that's similar.
Yeah, no. One time I talked to my dad about it. I said, I'm learning such and such. And he said, I don't even know how to spell the word computer anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's something we've done, but it's not necessarily something we ever talk about.
Makes
But
sense.
anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, I've been through a lot in my life of jobs. I've had to take jobs that were not the best job for me because I had to take the first job that was available because I was not financially strong at the time. And so I've taken jobs that I have come to regret. I've learned something at each, but often they don't end well because it wasn't a good fit. And one way or another, either I want to leave or they want me to leave, but it hasn't worked out. But I wanted to talk about an experience that I had going to work for Sentinel, as a matter of fact.
Sure.
When I took the job, I didn't take the precaution of really interrogating the job description. Right. And so I understood the job to be one thing, and they understood it to be another. And as you can imagine, it did not end well.
Yeah.
And so, it's really important. The thing that I want to express to people that they can maybe learn from is don't assume anything. Right. The way that the job description was written, the actual 100% full-time job that I was about to take was bullet point number 7 out of 10 bullet points. Everything else was just window dressing because what they really wanted was the number 7 bullet point was the full-time job. And you don't know that they're going to have them in order of priority. And a lot of places do. And so you can fall into the trap of assuming, well, I'm mostly here for this, but they want me to be able to do this, when necessary. Well, you have to ask.
Yeah.
If you don't ask, you don't know. And so assuming that they were in priority order was a big mistake for me. And, nobody had a good outcome from that. They regretted hiring me. I regretted working there.
Yeah. It doesn't go well if, And many times people hesitate to like dive a little bit deeper, saying, hey, I think it's going to be all fine. And they have an assumption. But I think you bring up a very important point saying, speak with the interviewer. I hope the interviewer is the person that's you're going to be working with. That's another thing that can happen. The person that you're interviewing has nothing to do with what you're going to be doing after joining.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. There's another job that I took with Stars Entertainment, as a matter of fact. The actual person I was going to be reporting to was out the week of my interview. So I interviewed with that person's boss.
Yeah.
And when that person came in, we didn't hit it off. And then that person quit.
Yeah.
Oh, that was fine. So I was back to working for the boss, but then his other job didn't work out and he came back.
Oh, wow.
And so here's the guy that I didn't get along with, and now he's back. And so, yeah, you're right. You have to be interviewed by the actual person you're going to work with.
Yeah.
And it's good, by the way. I want to say this in addition. So with Sentinel, what I could have done differently is I could have asked for a meeting with the coworkers, which I did not do, right? I had a meeting with my boss and I had a meeting with his boss, and then they made an offer. And I accepted the offer. But I didn't know who I was going to be working with. I didn't know what the dynamics were going to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the opportunity to talk to potential coworkers about, hey, what's the day-to-day work for me there?
Yeah.
Which I could have asked the supervisor as well, but at least if I'm talking to a peer, I'd be like, what do we do there?
Yeah. And many times we also go through like 2 or 3 levels of companies in the middle, right? We interview first with someone, then we interview with somebody else, then we interview with somebody else. And many times by that time, we are exhausted. We are like, I'm just here. Let them ask whatever they want. I'm just going to answer something. But the last interview is probably the most important one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you've got to have a good feeling about things. And I generally have a good feeling because I'm very trusting.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't believe that people have any ulterior motive. And if they do, it's always a surprise to me because I don't interrogate as
Yeah.
I should. They're very good at interrogating me. They made me do an IQ test, for instance, and
Yeah.
they wanted to make sure that I had this stuff,
Right.
but I wasn't making sure that they had this stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So anyway, the other thing that I'd like to mention is the world of professional services.
Mm-hmm.
When I've worked in professional services, the situation you just described comes up where
Yeah.
you're working for company X, but you have to have a job interview with company Y so you can do work with company Y as the representative of company X.
Yeah.
And then there's company Z out there somewhere that also has a stakeholder status in the project you're working on. And keeping track of lines of communication and stakeholder interests that vary
Mm-hmm.
and sorting out what are we really trying to build here is
Yeah.
very complex,
Yeah.
and it's not for everybody, and it wasn't for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's amazing because the higher up we go in professional services, the more complicated it gets. There's like more dynamics, more things to handle.
right. And
Yep.
so what I've determined is best for me is to quit all that,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm launching my business this year. I'm building a new kind of personal finance software that I've been using myself for decades,
Okay.
just using Excel. And so I've converted that into a web program.
Oh, nice.
And so we moved to Oklahoma City so we could, you know, focus. My
Yeah.
wife is my marketing partner,
Nice.
and I'm writing the software. And I've written the software to do the personal finance management, like 50%, 60%. But what I haven't done is I haven't done any of the marketing collateral.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have to build the Kickstarter page.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're not launching Kickstarter until January 1st,
Yeah.
but my website needs to be built and it needs to
Yeah.
have a Kickstarter page that will
Yeah.
eventually become the Kickstarter page. So when
Mm-hmm.
people come to visit the marketing website, they can see that we're for real and they can see what the Kickstarter program is going to be and how they might want to contribute and
Yeah.
all the things. Share this link with your friends, I can say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
None of that exists, right? So I've got to build that.
Yeah.
And my deadline for that is October 1.
Oh
So
wow. Yeah. It's coming up. Like time flies.
that's,
It feels like 6 more months, but yeah, it's almost there.
yeah, it's 5 months. So I've set out 5 months. Hopefully it's enough time to get the marketing part done and to complete the application. And then we launch our closed beta on October 1st and then Kickstarter on Jan 1.
Sweet. Sounds great. But tell us a little bit more about the software. Like what within personal finance, like what motivated you to make this?
So for me, I've always had trouble with budgets.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you will agree with me that most people do not do well with budgets.
Yeah.
In fact, statistically, 2/3 of people are not on any kind of a budget, and
Mm-hmm.
either they've never tried or they've tried and completely abandoned the idea
Yeah.
because it goes against human nature.
Yeah.
It requires so much handholding and
Yeah.
dialing your particular spending habits
Mm-hmm.
into defined categories with defined amounts and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. You can do it, and I'm going to tell you, it's the best way to do personal finance management, without
Yeah.
question. It's proven. People who have a budget do better financially,
Yeah.
reliably, right?
Oh yeah.
But you know who likes budgets more than anyone?
Uh,
Accountants,
okay. Yeah.
because they went to school to learn budgets, and they're
Right.
good at budgets, and they
Yeah.
run corporations using budgets, and right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you have personal finance software being devised and thought of and written, it always
Mm-hmm.
starts with the budget and it grows out from there. What are your categories?
Yeah.
And now, recently, we're in this world where we have data aggregators we can talk to
Right.
to pull down all of your account data. And so a lot of people will use budget programs, but they never create a budget, or they create a budget but ignore it.
Yeah.
but they really just use it so that they can aggregate their data.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the big players in the market right now are like Mint and Quick and Simplify and
Mm-hmm.
Monarch Money. And there's a number of big players that are out there doing that thing.
Yeah.
And they try to predict the future
Mm-hmm.
using AI techniques and so forth. And they're not very good at it
Mm-hmm.
currently. They might become much better at it in time.
Yeah.
But I want to write personal finance software for the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so my software is based on cash flow analysis.
Okay.
And so what I can do is I can predict when you're going to have account balance shortfalls
Mm-hmm.
or credit line exceedances,
Mm-hmm.
on your credit cards.
Yeah.
And I can warn you in advance, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
months in advance,
Mm-hmm.
of dangerous situations that you're facing. Well, people have no way of knowing this,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you have a budget,
Yeah.
because you're good at doing every month exactly what you did last month, and
Yeah.
you know that you're protected by the budget. But
Mm-hmm.
for people who can't do a budget,
Yeah.
as you know, 2/3 of people don't use a budget at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But of those who do, only 10 or 15% actually use the budget and stick to it and stay within the
Yeah.
budget
There is,
numbers.
I think it's more of an art rather than science, right? There's no way to like it. First of all, transformation is difficult. Like making a change in somebody's life is very, very
Right,
difficult, especially
right.
related to finance. And then getting the mindset saying, hey, you need to plan out and then stick to a plan. There's just so many things that are required. Ensuring the plan does make sense. It's practical. Most people end up making goals that are just not possible to achieve. And then being able to actually do that, the most important part, the plan itself, if that is wrong, nothing is going to work. And then actually having the mindset to stick to a plan and say, hey, like, I'm just going to use next week's budget to this week's entertainment of something, and it's not going to, and next week I'm not going to do anything for entertaining. It's
Right.
probably not going to work.
Well, the thing is, everything you just said is exactly true
Yeah.
if you apply it to budget or if you apply it to cash flow analysis.
Yeah.
Because like turning the thermostat down
Mm-hmm.
to cool your house in the summer, right?
Yeah.
If you're aware that you're going to have a problem 3 months out,
Mm-hmm.
and you have the ability to forestall that
Mm-hmm.
by saying, hey, let's cut down our spending a little bit because
Yeah.
we're going to have a problem if we don't. So what I'm saying is, yeah, you need a plan, but the first thing before you need a plan is you need a vision.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people are running amok because they don't have a vision. My software will give you a vision of what the future holds,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be surprised at how good the future can look
Yeah.
if you have a tool for looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
So
So
tell us a little bit more about the name of the software and like what is involved, like what are you doing for the marketing and what are you doing for setting up the pages and like the grind, right? Like it's never easy to launch a new business.
Well, yes, I'd love to be able to tell you the name.
Okay.
The thing that is blocking me from telling you the name is I haven't secured the domain yet.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's kind of important.
Yeah.
But until I secure the name, I can't really share it. But the name of my company is Freedom Forge.
Okay. Freedom Forge.
So
yeah, that's a beautiful
Freedom
name.
Forge, and thank you. And I don't have a URL for that either. I do have, but there's nothing there. So I'm not going to advertise that at this time. But Freedom Forge is our brand, is our corporation, and then within that, we're going to have the nameplate for this software product.
Sweet. Nice.
And so I'm excited about that, right? That's instead of going through the interview process and getting another job that probably isn't going to work out.
Yeah.
I'm going to create something of value and contribute something good to the world and maybe make a buck.
Yeah, and I think that's whenever there is like kind of the global turmoil and recession fears and all that, that's when real innovation generally happens. I hope that's not true in the long run. I hope innovation happens all the time and we don't have to wait for downturns to like for new things to come up. But on one side, if things are wrong, then the positive side about it is new innovation happens, new technologies come out, new life becomes a little bit better on the other end once we are through this.
Right. Well, one thing is for sure that there is a right time for things.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know the right time until it arrives sometimes. So
Oh yeah.
I've been working on this concept for, as I said, 30 years.
Yeah.
Right. What's different now is I have a lot of equity in my house and we're selling it.
Yeah.
So I have the resources to fund my own development effort.
Yeah.
What I can't do is fund the marketing effort. So that's
Yeah.
what the Kickstarter campaign is about.
Yeah. And marketing, are you like, in addition to the Kickstarter, like, are you also like looking for some VC funds or like, how big do you want to make this?
So that's the thing, right? If I'm able to, so my plan is to raise 150K on Kickstarter.
Okay.
My target will be 75K. Because if I make 75K, I'm probably going to make more than that because that's how Kickstarter works. If you meet your goal, you're probably going to exceed it. If I happen to exceed it and I actually am able to raise 150K, that's great because I don't have to dip into my savings.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if I do 150K of targeted marketing with a customer acquisition cost of $150, that's 1,000 users.
Yeah.
And 1,000 users is 100K a year.
Yeah.
And that pays for a lot of marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. It grows in.
So that's the thing, right? So if I get VC money, then it would be to take it to the next level. It would be to take it to the real world changing level where, you know, I have a marketing budget from VC of several $1 million, and I can reasonably expect revenue of 10x. Right? That's when VC starts to make sense. But until I've proven the product, I don't want to go after VC because my valuation is too low.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're still on the seed financing stage, so it does make sense to like a little more collaboration, like let's prove the point, let's make something happen, and then see how to scale it up.
Yeah, I want to use my closed beta and my open beta groups. If anyone's interested, right? If people don't even turn up for the closed and open beta, that tells me something about the market. But if they like it and they're excited by it and they're using it successfully and it's helping them with their own finances and they want to tell their friends, that's a market.
Yeah.
Right. So that not only proves that there is a market, but that is the market.
Yeah. Yeah. And is the software going to be like a mix of freemium with a paid subscription, or it starts off with a paid subscription?
So I've used both Quick and Simplify and Monarch Money. Monarch Money has a 7-day free trial. You give your credit card and they don't hit it for 7 days. And Quick and Simplify has a 30-day free trial. And so I think I'm going to land on one of those. I don't know. So one thing, Amish, that it's Amish or Amish?
Yeah, Amish.
Amish.
Yeah,
so one thing that I haven't mentioned is when you are a small business, you're a mom and pop shop. You're a sole proprietor. You're a contractor, right? You own a small shop, right?
Yeah.
You have exactly the same temperament as you do as an individual.
Yeah.
As a business owner.
Yeah.
So you have exactly the same need for visibility into your future. So I have two segments in my market that I'm looking at. You know, one is obviously the consumer, but also small businesses are a valuable source of marketing. So, and essentially the same software works for both,
Yeah.
right? You need to
Yeah.
know what the future holds because you need to know if you can make payroll. You need to know,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I hope that this is appealing to small business users as
Yeah.
well.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So I know you've created a plan like of October and January. Do
Yeah.
you like, and is like 1,000 users is what is the goal right now with open beta?
So what I expect to do is to burn through 150K of marketing
Mm-hmm.
in about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Halfway through that, maybe 2 months in. So Kickstarter starts January 1.
Mm-hmm.
It gets funded February 15 if I'm successful.
Mm-hmm.
So March 1, we start the pre-launch marketing for
Okay.
about a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
And then we launch maybe May 1st.
Okay.
And by the end of July, we burned through the entire 150K of
Yeah.
marketing. And we will see what our customer acquisition cost was.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. So I think that's a great plan. Like, so how did you and your wife like come together and like come up with this idea?
My wife loves me very much.
Okay. Yeah, that's
So
very important.
her background in customer service is great. She's a wonderful customer
Mhm.
service person. And she has worked in the sales space
Okay.
quite a bit as well. Marketing, uh, not so
Yeah.
much, but she's the partner that I have. So
Yeah.
I'm pushing her into the role and she's accepted it. And so we'll figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. And I think I whenever I speak with any mentors and even in my business within real estate, they only say two things. There are two most important parts to a business, marketing and sales. Everything else can fall in place once we have those two. Obviously, the product itself is important. You can't be marketing something that
Right.
you don't have. Like it needs to make sense. But once you have marketing, you have leads and leads. Once you have sales, then everything else can fall in place.
Well, exactly. It doesn't matter how good your product is if you have no
Yeah,
marketing. It
yeah,
doesn't
oh
matter.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I have many things I would like to build into the
yeah,
system that I want the system to be much more capable than it is,
yeah,
but that doesn't matter. It
yeah.
has to work
There is
and it has to
always
be a
time to
sellable
mature.
product.
Yeah, there's always
Yeah,
time to mature. Like
right.
I was just speaking with somebody that's working in Salesforce. There is still like what it's what 20 years into it. There
Oh
is
yeah, easily.
still things that need to be improved.
Right, right. But they have market share.
Yeah,
But the problem that you have when you're a mature technology leader like that is um, everything is buggy.
yeah,
And because you had to get to market, right? And
yeah.
so I'm focusing on making my software
Mm-hmm.
less feature rich
Yeah,
and more reliable.
yeah.
My goal is reliable software. And
Mm-hmm.
it works for me. I'm running my household on this product
Oh, nice.
today,
Yeah.
right? And so in fact, quitting our jobs,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I put that through the system. I said, what if I quit my job? The
Yeah.
system is like, here's what it looks like. You can do it. Here's how it works. You know, of course, the system didn't tell me that. I had to, coax
Yeah.
it into telling me what I need. It's an analytics tool. It's not a wizard. It's not a robot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, who knows what the future holds with regard to that.
Yeah. Makes sense. So, is it going to be mostly like a web-based solution, or there's going to be like a mobile app as well?
So it's going to be a mobile friendly web app.
Okay. Okay.
And, if there's a market, of course, there will be iPhone and Android
Yeah.
versions, but not in the first go. In the
Sure.
first go, it has to work and it has
Yeah.
to show me that there's a market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's no point in building. Now, if I had VC, you know,
Yeah.
I could build the whole thing and it would take me 3 years, but
Yeah.
we'd still not know if there's a market.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
right?
that
So
market testing is really important.
one of the problems I have, of course, is no one ever seems to have done this before. So is there a
Mhm.
market? I have no way of knowing,
Yeah.
right? So the classic philosophical debate, and you hear this from everybody who's successfully using a budget.
Hmm.
The people who don't use budgets or can't use budgets are just lazy, undisciplined,
Yeah.
people. Well, no, I
Yeah.
don't think that's true. I
Hmm.
don't think that's true at all. I think that there are people who genuinely don't have the mind space
Yeah.
to carve out these little categories and stick to them. It's a very frustrating activity, and not everyone
Mhm.
has that
Yeah.
impetus.
And at the same time, like, does the software actually like go back and analyze your history of how you were spending? Like, is
This
it?
is interesting. This is interesting that you say that, because
Yeah.
that's part of that whole budgeting world. You're an
Yeah.
MBA, right?
Yeah.
Your MBA included accounting, of
Hmm.
course, right? So
Yeah.
in accounting, it's all about the budget. Well, what is budget made of?
Hmm.
Budget is about dollars, but it's about dividing your spending into categories.
Hmm. Yeah.
Categories are intrinsically associated with a budget. If you don't have a budget, what are the categories,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That doesn't
So
exist.
my software does absolutely nothing.
Hmm.
If you get to a place where you can use a budget, you don't
Hmm.
need my software,
Yeah.
right? My
Yeah.
software is there to help people to have a solution for their finances when they can't do a budget.
Right. Yeah.
But if they use my software long enough, they'll learn that they should be budgeting,
Yeah.
and they can go use Quicken,
Hmm. Makes
right?
sense.
They can use a product that's built for that,
Yeah.
because my product is for the rest of us,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. And does it automatically mean like there has to be some stability? Like, let's say if somebody's going to be getting married next year and like the life is going to be transformed, right? Like from one income to two income, maybe 1.1, like the income increases twice, the expenses increases by half, like 1.5 times the expense versus 2x the income. But like how do we handle situations like this? Is just one example, right? It could be the opposite end of it.
Okay, that's a great question. I'm really glad you're listening.
Yeah.
You're a very good interviewer. So that's the great question, because the thing that our software does that none of the other products do
Hmm.
is what if analysis,
Hmm.
scenario management, right? So you can create a scenario that takes all of your future projections
Hmm.
and modifies them in some way. Like, we're going to
Yeah.
get married, like
Okay.
we're going to sell our house
Yeah.
in Tulsa and rent a house in Oklahoma
Yeah.
City.
Just the one
That's
you
a
mentioned. Yeah.
Right. That's a scenario,
Yeah.
right? And I call it what if, right? What
Yeah.
if, and then you type in what it is. What if
Yeah.
we move to Oklahoma City, right?
Yeah.
And then you adjust your expectations for
Hmm.
future cash flows
Hmm.
according to whatever that plan is. And then what happens is you get to learn how to adjust everything else to make it work.
Yeah. Makes
And if
sense.
you can build a complete scenario that works,
Hmm.
then you know that it's a good thing. The classic use case for this is you walk into the auto dealership
Hmm.
and they say to you, it's only $125 a month. Surely you can afford $125
Yeah.
a month. Well, yeah, you can, but if you plug it into our
Yeah.
software, now we're going to spend an extra 125 on this. Also, our insurance is going to go up, so we're going to have to pay
Hmm.
more on insurance. Oh, and by the way, it's a gas guzzler, so our gas, expenses, right? We don't call it gas expense, but we know that the credit card
Yeah.
is going to get hit by another $50 a month.
Hmm.
So you dial all those things in. Now, can I afford that 125 car payment?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, no, you can't, because in that scenario, you start getting alerts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. So, as we are almost concluding this episode, like how, I want to like go ahead and like try out this software. Like, if somebody wants to participate in the beta or the open release, can they just like reach out to you?
Well, for now, they can reach out to you.
Okay.
Yeah, if people reach out to you,
Mm-hmm.
and I will get the domain, I promise.
Sure.
and I'll share it with you, and you can attach it to the notes on this podcast. It's yeah, it's going to be great. But one thing you always do when you go on a podcast is give your information.
Generally, like anything, any place where you would recommend people to reach out, like a LinkedIn address or any.
Yeah. Let me, you know what?
And you don't have to like share it right now, but just if you prefer any one place where you might be accepting interest.
Can we pause the call? And
Yeah, sure. Pausing. Yes.
Okay. So I'd like to be able to tell you my LinkedIn address, but if you look for Tom Huguenard on LinkedIn, then you can reach out to me there.
Yeah. So yeah,
And,
that's perfect. Like that's one way people can, anybody that's interested in learning and trying out this new amazing software that's going to be launched within this year, and try it out and kind of collaborate and like give feedback. Feel free to reach out to Tom on LinkedIn.
yeah, I appreciate that, and definitely mention Amish
Yeah.
as your reason for speaking to me. Yeah, I'm very excited about what this year holds. I still haven't told you about my Air Force experience, so
Yeah.
maybe there'll be another time for us to get together and
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah, I might have to. I think that's going to be a lot of very amazing experience. We should probably do one full episode on just that.
It was pretty exciting, but I'm glad that we talked about what we got to today.
Yeah, sounds great. So thanks Tom for coming on the show and sharing your experience and the business that you're working on right now. And it's just amazing how much how proactively well organized you are with launching this business and having a business plan and a marketing plan and making it happen. So thanks for sharing that. Everyone that's listening, this is the right way to launch a business. It's not like I have this idea, I'm going to program this overnight, and let's see next month if I have some customers, and then 1 week later I have a completely new idea. It's that doesn't work. What you just heard from Tom is the right way to do things. So thanks Tom for enlightening us and like showing us the right way to do things.
Amish, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. Knowing that you have your ear to the ground and understand these things, your affirmation is helpful to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Main Street Minds. Want to share your journey with our audience? Head over to mainstreetmindspodcast.com/guest to apply.